Welcome to Voice of the Vatican. Our top stories: new recruits. The Vatican welcomes the newest members of the elite Swiss Guard to its ranks. Building communication. For the 50th World Sunday for Social Communications, Pope Francis sends a message of mercy loud and clear. Brutal attack. A bishop from the Kura Diocese in India is attacked, and the Telugu Federation of Churches speaks out against the brutality. Destination Rome. Chinese parish priests make a special Jubilee Pilgrimage to the Eternal City, where they are received by the Holy Father. Drying tears. A Jubilee prayer vigil held in St. Peter's Square is dedicated especially to those who suffer in soul and body. And honoring heroes. A Catholic woman from Burundi, Africa, has won the Aurora Prize for Awakening Humanity for selflessly putting her own life at risk to help others. I'm Ashley Norona in Rome, Italy, and you're watching Voice of the Vatican, only on Shalom World TV. The Holy Father can be assured that he's in good hands as the new recruits of the elite Swiss Guards were sworn in this week at the Vatican. The Swiss Guards are the personal security force of the Pope, and the new Guards swearing-in ceremony happens every year on May 6th to commemorate the day in the year 1527 when 47 Swiss soldiers gave their lives while heroically defending the life of Pope Clement VII during the sack of Rome. The festivities for the new recruits began with Mass celebrated in St. Peter's Basilica. Following that, the new recruits take a solemn oath. Each guard grabs the Swiss Guard flag with one hand while raising 3 fingers on the other. The fingers represent the Holy Trinity and the promise that each guard makes to defend the life of the Holy Father, even at the cost of his own. These words officially make him a member of the world's smallest army. The Swiss Guard was founded in 1506 and consists of approximately 100 members who must be of Swiss nationality, Catholic, single, and at least 5 feet 7 inches tall. Just as the Guards are willing to give their lives to protect the Pope, we can take this opportunity to ask ourselves, am I willing to offer everything I have to God in the service of the Church? Over 50 years ago, Vatican Council II issued the decree on the tools of social communication called Inter Mirifica, and also established the World Day of Social Communications, celebrated annually on the Sunday before Pentecost. This was the only World Day established by the Council, and this year it is celebrated on May 8th. This year also marks the 50th annual papal message decreed for the World Day of Social Communications. And the themes of these messages over the past 50 years have centered around mercy, which is especially fitting since this year it is within the context of the great extraordinary Jubilee of Mercy. Another first is that it is also the first World Day of Social Communications held after the creation of the new Secretariat for Communications by the Holy Father. In January, the Holy Father released the 50th message of World Day for Social Communications called Communication and Mercy, a Fruitful Encounter. His message states that, quote, as sons and daughters of God, we are called to communicate with everyone without exception. In a particular way, the Church's words and actions are all meant to convey mercy, to touch people's hearts, and to sustain them on their journey to that fullness of life which Jesus Christ was sent by the Father to bring to all. The Holy Father, who has an Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook accounts, also said social networks can facilitate relationships that promote the good of society, but they can also lead to further polarization and division between individuals and groups. Upon the release of this document, the director of Vatican's TV 2000, Paolo Ruffini, spoke about the need for television to look upon the world with the eyes of mercy, without being afraid of being rooted in reality. The message of the Holy Father goes on to explain that communication has a power that he calls a closeness that can open up broader horizons for many people, which also makes it a great responsibility. How beautiful it is, he writes, when people select their words and actions with care, and the effort to avoid misunderstandings, to heal wounded memories, and to build peace and harmony. This reminds us that whenever we communicate, individually or publicly, to be attentive to the words of wisdom from the book of James chapter 3, that we have an obligation to be stewards of every word we speak, and to make sure that it blesses rather than harms, and is always for the good of building the church and the kingdom. 54-year-old Bishop Prasad Galela of the Diocese of Kadapa, India, was attacked recently by unidentified persons when he was returning from a religious function in the Kadapa district, about 265 miles south of Hyderabad. The bishop and his driver were blindfolded, forcibly confined in an unknown location, and brutally attacked for several hours, stretching through the night. The incident occurred on April 25th, but was only recently made public as the search for the perpetrators continues. The Telugu Federation of Churches has filed a complaint and asked authorities to register a case to ensure the safety of Christians. For some time, the Christian minority has been the target of Hindu extremists in the Andhra Pradesh region, where in 2014, a Protestant pastor was killed by extremists. We at Voice of the Vatican pray for the complete recovery of the bishop and his driver, for the safety of Christian minorities, and that those who are hostile to the faith may come to see the light of Christ. 23 parish priests from China made a special Jubilee year pilgrimage to Rome that culminated with a meeting with the Holy Father himself after a papal audience. Upon arriving in Rome, they walked along the Via della Conciliazione, leading to St. Peter's Basilica, while singing hymns and praying the Rosary. They passed through the holy door of St. Peter's Basilica and prayed together at the tomb of the first pope. When introduced to Pope Francis in St. Peter's Square, the priests invited him to please come visit China. The Pope responded, saying that he would like to come. After meeting the Pope, the group met Cardinal Fernando Filone, prefect of the Congregation for the Evangelization of Peoples, who served the Church in China for 10 years. Cardinal Filone spoke to them of the progress of evangelization work in China. The priests also offered Mass at the tomb of St. Peter for the intention of church unity and the freedom to one day worship without fear of persecution in their own country. The pilgrimage also included a trip to Assisi and the Roman catacombs. Just 40 years ago, a pilgrimage like this would have been forbidden and unthinkable for Chinese Catholics. But negotiations in Rome have produced a positive atmosphere between Beijing and Rome that has not been seen in decades. In a recent interview on the Church in China, the Holy Father said dialogue was the key to progress, and that it should be faced fearlessly, inviting all to walk together along the journey. On May 5th, the Holy Father presided at a Jubilee prayer vigil inside of St. Peter's Basilica, called the Jubilee to Dry Tears. It was dedicated to all those who suffer in soul and body. The purpose of the prayer vigil is to dry faces streaked with the tears of physical or spiritual interior suffering, and to bring them to consolation. Consoling the afflicted is one of the 7 spiritual works of mercy, and the Pontifical Council for the Promotion of the New Evangelization says this Jubilee event, aimed at being a visible sign of the merciful hand of the Father, extended to dry the tears of a mother or father who have lost a child, or of a child who's lost a parent, of someone who is fighting sickness, of someone who's out of work and cannot find a job, of someone who lives in a situation of family discord, of someone who feels alone because they are elderly, of someone who suffers from an existential uneasiness, of someone who has suffered an injustice, or of someone who cannot find the sense of his or her life, or who has lost it. The sufferings, large or small, that every person carries inside are many and varied, but all are great struggles, which can lead to a lack of hope and faith. The reliquary of Our Lady of Tears of Syracuse, Sicily, was displayed for veneration of the faithful during the prayer service. The tears in the reliquary were shed from a plaster picture of the Immaculate Heart of Mary that wept profusely from August 29th to September 1st of 1953 in front of several witnesses. In this month of May, dedicated to Our Lady, the tears of Mary are a sign of her maternal love and her active participation in the lives of all her children. The Aurora Prize for Awakening Humanity was created to commemorate the unsung heroes who stood up in the face of persecution during the 1915 Armenian genocide, by honoring those who are doing the same in the face of contemporary atrocities. The winner of this year's prize was Marguerite Berenkitse, a Catholic laywoman who saved thousands of lives and cared for orphans and refugees during the civil war in Burundi. When war broke out, Berenkitse, a Tutsi, tried to hide 72 of her Hutu neighbors to keep them safe from persecution. Sadly, they were discovered and executed whilst Berenkitse was forced to watch. Following this gruesome incident, she started her work of saving and caring for children and refugees, and has saved approximately 30,000 children. In 2008, she opened a hospital which has treated more than 80,000 patients. 3 of the 4 finalists for the prize were Catholics, including Dr. Tom Katena, a Catholic doctor who serves as the only surgeon for 750,000 people in the Nuba Mountains in Sudan. Dr. Katena said his work is inspired by St. Francis of Assisi. And Father Bernard Kinvi, a priest of the Order of St. Camillus. Father Bernard provided shelter for those fleeing the anti-Balaka militia at his mission hospital for several months, and then helped them escape across the border into Cameroon, saving an estimated 1,500 Muslims from slaughter. As the winner, Marguerite Berenkitse received a $100,000 award and the opportunity to name a charity to which a $1 million grant will be awarded. As we're inspired by the incredible work of Marguerite Berenkitse, it's an opportunity for us to ask ourselves, how are we reaching out to those God puts into our lives to be instruments of His love and mercy? Coming up next, we'll take a look back on the 130th anniversary of the ordination of Father Augustus Tolton, Servant of God, who's identified as the first Black priest in the United States. In the wake of the violent attack on Cardinal John Onaiyekan of Nigeria, we'll go up close with Father Leonard Ehimere to discuss some of the challenges as well as reasons for hope in the church in Nigeria. And celebrating faith. On the feast of a beloved Italian saint, we speak to the priest who's translating her biography into English, so that her story of heroic virtue can be shared with the world.
Did you like the program you just watched? Help Shalom World bring more programs like this to a global audience. Your support helps us share the peace of Christ with the world. Visit shalomworld.org/donate.
We're celebrating the 130th anniversary of the priesthood of a remarkable man who went from slavery to the altar. His mother, Martha Tolton, escaped slavery in Missouri, bravely fleeing with her 3 young children, dodging bounty hunters by traveling by night in very dangerous conditions. His father, Peter, had died after serving in the Union Army, fighting for Black freedom. Martha finally got her children to safety to Quincy, Illinois, a station stop of the United States clandestine Underground Railroad. After being asked to leave several schools and enduring racist insults because of his skin color, St. Peter's Parish and School of Quincy, Illinois, welcomed the family. The young Augustus Tolton eventually felt a call to the priesthood and came here to Rome for seminary. He was ordained in St. John Lateran Church in 1886 and celebrated his first Mass in St. Peter's Basilica. His character was marked with humility and virtue, even in the face of continued prejudice and persecution, and he's now on the path to sainthood. A priest of Father Tolton's first diocese sat down with Voice of the Vatican to talk about this great man and the importance of the opening of the cause for canonization of America's first black priest by the late Cardinal George of the Archdiocese of Chicago.
When he opened the cause, he referred to the opening of this cause as the most important thing that he had ever done as Archbishop. He did this during the Year for Priests, and he wanted to nominate a priest for canonization to uphold to his priests as somebody whose life of virtues, whose life of heroism he could hold up and say, this is what we're all supposed to be like.
In honor of this model priest, Father Zenley marked the anniversary with a walking pilgrimage to St. John Lateran Church, asking Father Tolton for his prayerful intercession for the salvation of priests. Father Tolton's life of heroic virtue offers a model for all of us.
His great devotion that he had to the labor of the preaching of the gospel, to evangelization, that even after a year of trying to bring more converts to his church, he'd only found 25. But he didn't stop at that. He kept going. He was teaching catechism classes every day, Sundays after Masses, daily, after daily Mass, he'd always have catechism. He was teaching a school that he operated. He was going out to the sick, to the homebound, going everywhere he could to preach the gospel, exhausting himself out in the end. So we have the humility, we have the devotion to the preaching of the gospel, his zealous proclamation of it. But then also, I think more importantly, his long suffering, as it's been called, that unwillingness to retaliate, to seek revenge, to make everybody know what this other person was doing, is something that we in this modern day, we need that example all the more. That he accepted, in a certain way, the insults, the pain that came with that as part of the cross. And he didn't seek to throw it back to the guy, but he sought to accept it and to unite that suffering with the suffering of Christ. And we so quickly take to Twitter, we take to Facebook, to Instagram, to our blogs, who knows what, Snapchat now, to let everybody know what so-and-so said, what so-and-so did, without ever asking the question of how can I grow in holiness because of this persecution, because of this suffering, because of this difficulty. I think that's the primary virtue that we see in Father Tolton.
Father Tolton wrote in a letter to St. Catherine Drexel in 1891, "I shall work and pull at it as long as God gives me life, for I'm beginning to see that I have powers and principalities to resist anywhere and everywhere I go." We pray for the intercession of Father Augustus Tolton, servant of God, for the grace to rely only on the power of Christ anywhere and everywhere we go, even in the face of persecution. On April 29th, Cardinal John Anayakin, Archbishop of Abuja, Nigeria, was traveling in a car on his way to Iromi when his car was caught in a gun attack. 3 men emerged from the side of the road from the darkness of a local palm tree plantation and began shooting at the vehicle. The bullets shattered the left passenger's window glass and left large holes on the panel of the door. Fortunately, the cardinal was not injured, although just a few weeks prior, a car in the area carrying 3 priests was attacked, and one of them was seriously injured. One of the Holy Father's recent prayer intentions for evangelization was that Christians in Africa may give witness to love and faith in Jesus Christ amid political religious conflicts. In light of these events, we took an up-close look at the church in Nigeria and sat down with Father Leonard Ehimere of the Diocese of Umuahai, who recounted some of the challenges in the church in Nigeria.
I feel one of the most recent challenges of the church is that of the religious coexistence in the country. Of recent, especially from 2000 till date, we have witnessed a lot of violence from the religious aspect, especially in the northern part of the country. And this has given the church a very big challenge. Many churches have been destroyed, and many closed, and many attacked and bombed. So it has become a very big challenge for the church in Nigeria in her mission of spreading the gospel.
Communication itself is a great challenge within Nigeria, a country with over 500 ethnic groups, languages, and cultures. The communication gap is difficult for the Church to bridge, especially since it has been prevented by the Nigerian Broadcasting Commission from having a national radio presence. The country is also dealing with the difficulties of a 10.5% unemployment rate, and northern Nigeria has been afflicted with violent attacks from the Islamic terrorist group Boko Haram. 350 churches have been attacked, bombed, closed, or abandoned, and 9,000 to 11,000 Christians have been killed and millions displaced. Bishop Lucius Ogorji of Father Ehimere's Diocese of Umuahai is part of an initiative called the Justice, Development, and Peace Commission, and recently visited 36,000 displaced Nigerians living in a camp in Cameroon to share the message, "We have not abandoned you." In addition, Father Ehimere explained that many hopeful initiatives are happening in the country.
In the face of these challenges, the CBC and Catholic Bishops' Conference has been on top as the #1 organization that helps to bring hope to the people that are being persecuted. I want to say that in 2001 already they established the Commission for Interreligious Dialogue that has been doing a lot to dialogue with the Muslims, especially the headman or Sultan of Sokoto is one of the prominent figures of the Muslims in Nigeria, so the dialogue about peace and how to live well. And the president of this CBC and Archbishop Ignatius Gaitama also did a very wonderful something and suggestion which he has already started in his own Archdiocese of Jos, where he established a skill acquisition center where Muslim youths and Christians came to learn some certain skills. They have Muslim teachers and Christian teachers, and within that they spent 2 years to learn these skills, and within this period both the Christian youths and the Muslim youths are being taught of how to live in peace together as brothers and sisters and people from one nation.
The Catholic Bishops' Conference of Nigeria has also begun a prayerful initiative and written a prayer for Nigeria in distress, which is prayed after every Mass. On the last Sunday of every month, they have called for 1 hour of Eucharistic adoration to pray for the Church and those persecuted and displaced. And we invite you to join us in prayer for the Church in Nigeria, and are grateful to faithful priests like Father Ehimere who work tirelessly to spread the good news of Christ. May 7th is the feast of St. Rosa Venerini. You may know her better by the name of the community she founded, the Maestre Pie Venerini Sisters, who are engaged in apostolic activity all over the world, including the U.S., India, Brazil, Cameroon, Romania, Albania, Chile, Switzerland, Venezuela, and Nigeria. St. Rosa was born in Italy in 1656 and is known for her desire to educate the poor and for her 2 great passions, passion for God and the passion for the salvation of souls. Yet, until now, English speakers did not have the opportunity to know much about the inner life of this great saint, until American Father Bob Grattarotti took on the task of translating St. Rosa's biography, written by Rita Pomponio, from Italian into English. He received the book as a gift, and after reading it was so taken with the holiness of St. Rosa's life that he just knew he was being called to translate it. Father Grattarotti says that St. Rosa is a beautiful model of virtue, especially for women everywhere.
She was a front runner, I'm going to say, in the liberation, if you will, of women. She was like a type of Catherine of Siena. She was like a type of Teresa of Avila. She was a type of Teresa of Lisieux. They were wonderful, wonderful holy women that made a powerful impact in the lives of people. And wherever they went, they brought people closer to the Lord amidst great odds, amidst serious odds. The girls in those days, you know, didn't have education, they didn't have a high moral values and so forth, and she inculcated all of that, and it helped families. And everywhere she went, in spite of any opposition, she was very, very, very popular, and she did very much good work.
By the time of her death in 1728, she had opened more than 40 schools. The Venerini sisters then went to the United States in 1909, primarily to help Italian immigrants in that country, establishing the first daycare centers in many cities of the northeastern United States. Saint Rosa is entombed here in Rome at the chapel of the Venerini Mother House. And to celebrate her feast day, they're hosting Venerini Day with a special meeting of the Venerini schools of the Diocese of Rome. As we're preparing our hearts, minds, and souls for Pentecost, our tweet of the week comes from Archbishop Jose Gomez, the Archbishop of Los Angeles. He tweets, "God gives us His Spirit to open our eyes, to help us to see things accurately, to help us to sense the hidden presence of God all around us." Archbishop Gomez was born in Mexico, and his Episcopal motto is taken from Hebrews 4:16. Let us confidently approach the throne of grace. As we prepare this week for the arrival of Pentecost, let us ask the Spirit to help us to approach His throne with confidence and to recall that God is in and of all things. All week long, you can keep up with the latest happenings in Rome on our Twitter feed, which is @VoiceOfVatican. And be sure to like us on our Facebook page, Voice of the Vatican. Keep checking our social media feeds for breaking news and information about upcoming guests and features. And we want to hear your voice too. Email your questions, stories, and news to us at vov@shalomworld.org. This is Ashley Norona, and on behalf of the entire staff and crew of Voice of the Vatican, I wish you a blessed Feast of the Ascension of Christ. May God bless you and your family. Saying ciao for now from the Eternal City, I'll see you next week on Voice of the Vatican, from Rome to your home, only on Shalom World TV.